And we're joined by Sean Larkin, a Tulsa police officer and sergeant for the organized gang unit. Sean, everybody is saying, why? Why does a 26-year-old man walk into a church carrying a semi-automatic rifle and open fire? You have long police experience. What light can you shed on this?
You know, it's just like we've talked about in some of these other deals, like Las Vegas, Columbine, Sandy Hook. Why are these individuals so angry, so distraught that they're wanting to take this out on these innocent victims? They're finding these soft targets, and what we've seen in each one of these deals is these guys want to go in and do as much damage, but when they're confronted by somebody or law enforcement is moving in on them, they're taking their own lives. You know, these guys are cowards. And it's bringing so much pain to these small communities like we saw here in Texas. Why is the question? It's just terrible.
Yeah, and you know, to flesh that out a little bit, you know, the heroes who confronted him as he was running out of the church, apparently he saw that they were armed, and at least the word that we've gotten, this could change because these early reports are sometimes not quite correct, but the early reporting was that he dropped his gun and then jumped in his car and drove off like he's scared. I mean, you're exactly right. He's a coward.
Exactly, and that's the term that describes the majority of these type of deals. They are cowards. They arm themselves to go out and inflict this type of damage, and when they're confronted with someone who's willing to bring the fight to them, law enforcement, in this case, a citizen that did an amazing thing, and they do exactly that. They are straight cowards. They're not willing to battle out with somebody who's willing to meet them head to head on what they're trying to do.
The indications are that he had been busted while he was in the Air Force, even jailed for domestic abuse on not only his wife, but his child. What does that tell you about the mindset of this shooter?
Obviously he's got a violent individual. I've read some things this morning that's talked about even other girlfriends he's had, since that incident that have said he has stalked them. My question is I spoke with the local ATF head here in Tulsa and asked him about the ability to buy the firearms. It's a form called the 4473, and there's a series of questions on there that would prohibit somebody from getting a firearm, one of which I believe it's 11G that talks about having a dishonorable discharge. From what I've read or we've heard, he was discharged for what's called a bad conduct. So that alone wouldn't prohibit him, but I believe it's 11I on the form. It talks about, have you been convicted for domestic violence in any court? And if, in fact, he was convicted for domestic violence, there in the military, I understand he served a year for that sentence. I'm very curious, how was this missed when he went to purchase this firearm a year or so ago, whether it was filled out, differently on the military records from what we in law enforcement typically see. But if he, in fact, was convicted for domestic violence, he should not have been able to legally purchase that firearm.
Sergeant Sean Larkin from the Tulsa Police Department, thanks for your expertise.